Excellent.
Happy Friday. And I'll say a quick little introduction before we move into our intention for
Hmm.
this time.
Yes.
Welcome everybody. I'm Stephanie, and we are so fortunate to have Dr. Ilse Matiss with us here today. Um, I have had the honor of sharing space with you. What has it been, maybe over this past year,
Mhm.
um, through the Launch Guide program and through the Inner Circle Voxer coaching. So we've had a
Hmm.
lot of time together, which has been such a gift. Um,
For me too. Yes.
yeah, and I'll let you introduce about your work. But part of my intention was I know that you just move in some really beautiful ways with your clients and that you are very, very familiar with the Enneagram, among other things,
Hmm.
Enneagram and energy work. And when I had created Launch Guide and the workshop, the workbook,
Hmm.
I included the Enneagram because it's been really meaningful to
Hmm.
me and my work. And I've had, therapists use it with me in different ways. But I don't know if surprised is the right word, but I came across many therapists who weren't familiar with it. And so they started
Hmm.
asking me, can you tell me more about the Enneagram? And I mean, it just was a little bit outside my depth. So it's such a joy to be able to have this conversation because I know people are really curious and
Hmm.
um and I know that you also have a lot of wisdom to share with us. So thank you for being here. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And it's really like it's so much fun to be able to do this. And also like I feel like in any way that I can help others find how the Enneagram can work for them feels um, really important and purposeful and like part of the journey, you know?
Yeah.
And for maybe so what I wanted to invite everybody to experience just a little bit for a moment. And we've kind of already passed that moment because we're already in the experience, and the experience is beautiful because you bring such a calm, centered, um, like caring presence, right, to any conversation. And what I just wanted to mention was because it relates to the Enneagram, and one of the gifts of the Enneagram is to help us sort of become more energy aware, both for ourselves and for our clients. And I will speak to that a little bit. Um, However, what I wanted to begin with was just a little demonstration of how one can come into one's life. Now, it may or may not be appropriate in the therapy room, depending on, the type of client situation that you have. But it is, I feel, appropriate in many life circumstances, so to speak. And that is to, so often we have all of this stuff going on the inside,
Mm.
and then, like, there's something on the outside that has to sort of be a certain way, or how we perceive it has to be. And each person can be walking around in their own bubble of the stuff that's going on in the inside and the stuff they're kind of thinking they're supposed to be showing on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And it can sometimes get in the way of just arriving in the moment that we're in. And so, we've already arrived into the moment that we're in, but what I would like to just sort of share is a way of playing with this. That, if you listen to this and this resonates for you, well, give it a go. And you can give it a go with somebody you feel quite safe with before making it public in some other way. And you may never want to do that. And that's totally fine. Um, and so this is like my public. I did this yesterday at a workshop, and today I'm doing it publicly here today. So the idea is to sort of like just um, maybe as I do this, I will actually introduce the three energy centers. So we're already kind of in the in sharing of the wisdom, but also how it can relate to the experience. And so the Enneagram, there's so many different ways of thinking about energy and organizing and tracking energy and clearing energy. And in the Enneagram, it's like one of the things, Stephanie, you and I talked about was how, the power of three is an important organizing structure within the Enneagram. There's the nine types, and they're organized into three clusters. Well, they're in three clusters in a variety of ways, but one of those organizational um, frameworks relates to the energy. So there's the head type, the energy of the head, the mind, the imagination, how it can be expansive for us and how it can sort of run amok and feel overwhelming, chaotic. There's the energy of the heart, which is, being present to what's happening, connecting. Those are the energies of love, of enoughness and not enoughness, of scarcity, and that interrelational or that relational part as well. And other things too. I'm just naming some words for each. And then there's the gut or the body energy, and that's how the body communicates. And that might be the tension that we feel, or the expansiveness that might be completely being oblivious to even having a body. So these are just some examples of the energy types. And while I'm speaking about that, I'm just going to say, so the head types are the fives. So the five is the observer, the six is the loyal skeptic, the seven is the adventurer or the epicure or the joyful person. And different Enneagram teachers use different languaging around that. So I'm just pulling some of them. And then the heart centers are the twos, threes, and fours, which are the loving or caring person. The the three is the effective person or the achiever, the performer. The four is the like the romantic or the unique person, the creative person, and then the body types. And I'm a body type. I'm an Enneagram 9, which you can probably, if you know the Enneagram, you've already tuned into that because I'm not getting to the point very quickly. I'm having a lot of story about things, but I hope that I hope that you receive the story in ways that kind of brings in ahas or richness or even just a chance to have a belly chuckle at how I'm doing this thing. But so the body types are the eight, which is the like the assertive person or the boss or like the powerful person. And the nine is the peacekeeper or the mediator or like the peaceful person, and or who strives to be the peaceful person. And then the one is the perfectionist or the reformer or the one who can see the highest potential. And those are the body types. So how I started into this was I wanted to just demonstrate how for a moment when we arrive in a situation that can be, unfamiliar or stressful, or just if you arrive making the transition from the car and having been at work arriving home or the other way around, where you can just take a moment to name for the other person that you're with what it is that you're experiencing. Mm-hmm. And so so in this moment's already different than the one when we first arrived before we pushed record. But so, for example, I can be quite aware of my belly. I can feel, and that's that, and it's kind of like uh, there's definitely energy moving, but it doesn't feel butterflies, and it doesn't feel all tight. So I think I'm feeling pretty kind of relaxed and okay here. And then just the heart and the mind are just kind of calm for me in this moment. And
Hmm.
it can be different things at different times, but it's different than the moment before we pushed record when I was shuffling my papers and I was thinking, oh, I didn't think about that enough. So I'm just sort of naming these as different ways of being before we show up to something.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
and I don't know if you want to share something from your own sort of tuning in this moment.
Ooh. Ooh, my shoulders feel a little like heavy, and my mind is sort of fast because I'm thinking like, how can I support you? And is there anything that folks need who may be tuning in? So I think I have a little bit of like monkey mind
Hmm.
happening, and but my heart feels really like open.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And and I feel the open heart and the rest of you you carry very well. So yeah. And
Thank
I'm happy you're
you.
dealing with all of that so I don't have
Right.
to worry
I
about all
gotcha.
those details. Yes, thank you. Okay, so that was a little bit of an intro into that. And um where like so where would we like to go next? Would we
Yes. So we kind of named the three different energy places. You named the nine types. Um, I'm curious. I know we probably prepared specific questions, but in this moment, I'm just going with where we are.
yeah.
What what draws you to the Enneagram, and what about it,
Mm.
makes it something that you wanted to continue to know more about and to share with people?
Yeah, so that's and that may be an important idea for somebody listening, if like maybe. So for me, I've been working with the Enneagram for 15 years now, and at the time that I became introduced to the Enneagram, and this is relevant because it relates to your question. So, but
Sure,
it's still
yeah.
the backstory. So at the time, like I had been a school psychologist for a very long time, and I'd also been doing parallel work in coaching, counseling, kind of, and transitioning out of the one and more into the other. And with that, um, I was at the time kind of wanting to leave behind
Mhm.
um, sort of pathologizing models of thinking about people. And I had already I had had quite extensive training in narrative and solution focused work way before this moment in time. But and I was also exploring metaphysical work and
Yeah.
spiritual work. And so I really wanted to be present in the experience of what is unfolding for people. And so the interesting thing was, though, right? Like when we have structure, we actually experience more freedom.
Mm.
And so what I was finding was because I had been letting go of a lot of the structure that defined my work previously, um, there were moments where I was feeling the absence of that structure.
Hmm.
When it was somebody that I had an innate, like when I could, as a body type, when I could tune into what was happening and I could understand it, then that was fine. I hope you're not hearing the dogs barking, but there's dogs
No,
barking.
no.
Um, um, but then, so what happened was I was introduced by a colleague who shared the same rental office with me to the Enneagram. And so two things happened. One was that, well, she was so excited about it. And I thought, wow, like this is a really neat way of thinking about people. And it's sort of so different than, um, some of the other models in a way.
Hmm.
Um, and so I tried to I went I sort of this is like the main thing with all of this is beginning with yourself. So that's what I'm telling you about my beginning with yourself story. So the beginning with yourself was like, first of all, as a nine, sometimes it's hard to sort out if you're a nine for a whole variety of reasons. One is we can merge with different types, and we can identify with all the different types. We can meet them because that's one of our abilities is to be um, attuned to others and merge with their energy and help them out, or sort of use their energy to carry us into doing whatever we're doing, right? So that's a little example about a nine. Um, but the thing was that initially I couldn't figure out, like I was reading through it sequentially. I thought, oh, maybe I'm a two because I help people, I care about people, but I'm not really so I don't need them to need me. They just need me.
Yeah.
And then hang on, sorry. Um and then um and then also the fourth, I'm creative, I like to be unique and different, but I don't really feel I want to stay in the melancholy. So I thought I don't know who I am.
Yeah.
And then I was out playing ball with my dog. And suddenly it hit me, oh my goodness, I think I'm a nine. And and that was such a strange thing for me because a lot of the writing about the Enneagram is not written by nines. So each source is flavored by the type of the author. And that's true for any books that you
Yeah.
read on any topic. But in the Enneagram community, there at the time, there were not a lot of nines speaking about nines. So what they were saying about nines didn't necessarily ring true for me.
Sure.
And one of the things that didn't ring true for me was being like, it was like the image that was presented was the sea turtle.
Ah.
And this was a friend of mine who had created her own way of you tuning into what your type is. And the words were like peaceful, calm, easygoing. And so while all of that was true in a sense on the outside, that's how the outside looking at me might have a lot of the time experienced me in the world. On the inside, I felt not like that. I felt a lot of anxiety or worry, or I wasn't sure, and I was switching gears. And so, um, anyway, so that's sort of how I entered into it. And when I discovered that and then relaxed into the the wisdom of the Enneagram, helping to understand both the gifts, like because we are often focused on what we're not doing as well as everybody else.
Mhm.
And so, what this perspective gave me personally was to finally see who other people were seeing, right? Like, so to see the me that I didn't even know was a real thing in a sense. Like, I mean, this is like
Oh.
in some ways, yes, some ways, no. But the thing is that, like, it really honored the gifts of who, as a nine, I am. And at the time, I have a bit of I have attentional stuff. I kind of procrastinate. I'm often not on time for things. And there were judgments about that. And I sort of carried the judgments about that and thinking, oh, I really have to improve that. And instead, or alongside of that, then I was able to be witnessed in that, I am able to see all perspectives. I care about people, and I can help them feel, um, I can help them feel included and listened to.
Mhm.
And and I can see possibilities that others don't. I can see that the things that get in people's way, um, doesn't like that it's less than they imagine it to be.
Yeah.
And so then for me as a therapist, what happened was that in that in that structure, I discovered a really helpful way of making sense of the people in my therapy room, in my
Ah.
consultation room, and and helping them to sort of start with like, so if we kind of realize that we're not the purpose of life isn't to be perfect, and it isn't to live according to somebody else's idea about how one should ideally live their life,
Mhm.
um, that gives a lot of freedom to start exploring what are the gifts and what are the things that get in the way of those gifts, without it having to be something wrong about you. It's just an opportunity for growth and for healing and for learning and making sense of the times that that gets in the way, or, um, you know, um, actually becomes an asset of some kind of a support. I'm just distracted. Can I get 1 second? My husband keeps like wanting to call me. I'm just saying. So the first time I just turned off the phone, and the second time I just sent a message if I could call later. Um,
Oh.
so uh, otherwise it's distracted me, and now I've distracted myself from the conversation. But so for me, that was part of it, was that now there was even though people can use it in a pathologizing way,
Mhm.
I, as a nine, and I'm actually most aligned with two seven, the energies of two, seven, and nine. So it's the
Ooh.
optimistic triad. So the law of
Ooh.
threes, there are different ways in which these threes organize, and that's another way that it organizes. So then
Ah.
I'm really drawn to the positive pathway, and finding, from the narrative influence, I'm really curious about what are the alternate stories to whatever challenging things are going on. How can we see the gifts in that?
Yeah.
And similarly, for sort of from a solution focused perspective, like already trusting that there are, that in the mix of what we've got, there is something that the client already knows and understands and can access, so that
Oh.
resourcefulness.
Yeah, like
So,
helping them see their innate gifts that are
yeah,
already there, like a more, like you were saying, like a more structured way to do that.
yes. And so with that, what it helped me especially with was the clients that I didn't so like, so as a body type, I pick up a lot of transmissions from other people. And when people aren't transmitting, or they're transmitting in a way that I'm not sure what they're transmitting, then I can get in my own head and out of the moment. So I can be doubting whether I'm being helpful, or, I mean, that's kind of one example. And I'm sure something that most people have experienced as a therapist at some moment in time.
Yeah.
So for me, learning the Enneagram, and it's particularly about some of the head types, um, I I started to, and because they are not very in their body at all oftentimes, and
Yeah.
so that's a part of where the disconnect can happen if one is counting on finding out, are we okay, kind of thing, or is this helpful? And so I learned that that's okay, that's okay, that they're like, I learned to understand what their needs might be, and oftentimes that was just to talk and be heard, and that was enough for them. I didn't need to There wasn't anything that needed to be solved. And that may not just be the head type, but that may be others too. So I'm just kind of naming that. So for me, it felt like, oh, now I have like my diagnostic tool or my guiding tool that helps me understand. And then I was so shocked to discover, oh, and that's much more mainstream and respectable than all my energy and spiritual
Ah.
stuff. And then I discovered that at the time, that the psychology, like the general field of psychology, wasn't even very enamored with the Enneagram. And then I thought, okay, that like you are really missing the boat here, folks.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of a long about way of answering your question.
Well, I love it. And I'm sure there's other people who, you know, are trying to make a conscious effort to move away from that pathologizing. And, this is a helpful, like you said, to give structure, some cubbies. Not that you have to be like dogmatic about it, but that it just helps create some structure so that you can have freedom and flow. So I love that.
Yeah, and so part of that too is like that's where the beginning with the self really matters. So rather than it becoming a tool that is sort of on the outside of you, right? Like the journey is the own journey, like one's journey of self-discovery, and also one's journey of tuning in, for example, to those like from that law of three perspective or the energy centers perspective, even noticing like who are the folks that you are resonating more with, like who are your people, like your people to serve more, who feels
Yeah.
and then or who is like who in your idea can you help, but it's also who am I in the work, and so one of the things with the Enneagram is sort of naming that it's an inside job. So we can guide people to explore their type, but ultimately it's their own inner experience. So sometimes people will reside in the type for one reason or another that isn't probably their place. I like their most resonant place, and that's one of the things we are connected to these different types, and it's we don't have an image like I'm realizing it. We're talking about this quite abstractly, but maybe if you're listening, maybe we'll also have you'll have some pictures or something where you're
Yeah.
like that with the Enneagram image. But the thing about it is that there's these interconnections. And overall, it represents all the energy that is, right? So it's oneness, it's a representation of oneness.
Hmm.
And what is also powerful is that it is like no one type is more or less valuable.
Yeah.
No one type is more or less healthy. We have the full continuum in the expression of the human experience. We have healthy expressions and versions, and that can be a lot of the time, some of the time, or rarely. And we have the less resourceful. So, like one of my teachers talks about more like the resourced and the less resourced.
Mm.
That's Dr. Wagner, and so I've started to use that language. I used to use the idea of like the more optimal and the suboptimal, but the idea is right. Like the idea is that there's this continuum.
Mm.
So with a continuum, it also like gives the structure, but it's not a judgment because we're always moving along a continuum.
Yeah.
And it also guides from where we are, where it might be helpful to figure out how can we sort of arrive in life in a more resourced way, which is so related to the work that people do as therapists, right? Helping their people become more resourced,
Hmm.
and it can be helpful to have the like wherever somebody is in the moment, that's actually just an expression or a moment in time that is connected to a whole series of steps to get them more to the place that they want to be. And there's a whole variety of ways in which we do that as
Yeah.
therapists. But that was sort of like the thing that it's like you're talking about, like the structure, that there's freedom in it and it doesn't have to be rigid. And so also when we're working with a client, we may or may not be reading their type correctly,
Mm.
and similarly they may or may not be seeing themselves um sort of uh in wholeness. So they may be rejecting parts of themselves and then thinking that they should be like somebody else, right?
Uh,
And but the thing is that it's a beginning point, and um, so you don't have to get it right away, but it's a beginning point, and it gives you ideas of things to pay attention to.
mhm.
So even if you're very new to the Enneagram, you can, like, for example, in the workbook, like you have, like, I think that is such a beautiful resource as even as one of the first interactions with it, because it sort of speaks to the different things that you might notice.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so as you're learning the things you might notice, you can be curious about what you're noticing
Yeah.
and even, sort of making those connections. And I think like with the Enneagram, the thing is to, well, if we think like the energy centers really are um, sort of such a clean way of um, tuning in, because we will all do better if we are tuning into what's happening in the mind and the head,
Mhm.
what's happening with the heart, and what's happening in our body. The belly is sort of like the epicenter of that, but for the body types, the whole body is speaking, and probably for other types too. But I can
Mhm.
just vouch for sure for myself that there's tingles and movement of energy in my body. Like it's an important tool of communication, right?
Yeah.
So even beginning with that is something that can start to be integrated. And there's so many beautiful resources and like workshops, and like depending on how you like to learn, workshops, online experiences, books, videos, podcasts.
Yeah. Ooh. I'm so curious. I want to pause and just check in and see if any questions are coming in.
Yeah, please.
I don't see any at this moment, but if anyone's watching the replay, feel free to post if things are
Mhm.
coming up for you. And I think I'm realizing that there's so much, there's so many layers to this, because you're
Yeah.
saying things that I'm like, oh, I hadn't really thought about that before, that maybe we
Mhm.
as people or even in our work, like maybe I do tend to connect more with like gut people because I'm a gut person.
Mhm.
Or maybe
Mhm.
like me and head people don't always, sometimes we have a disconnect in communication and I don't know why. So I was just
Mhm.
like, oh, that's even just being aware of that level is really interesting.
Yeah, because actually, even as you just said that, so because like the gut people, like and this is sort of like in personal interactions, but also in the therapy room, right? There's a feeling, like a sense we get if things are okay, connecting,
Yeah.
okay, or we feel like discomfort, uncomfortable in
Mhm.
some way that's sort of alerting us to things not being okay. And sometimes that not feeling of uncomfortable actually comes because there are different channels of connecting. So, um, like a head type might actually be okay, but because
Uh-huh.
they're not transmitting, they're not connected in the body. We're not like,
Ah,
we're kind of not sure where we're not sure where we're landing with them, right? And
yeah.
so and the head type might actually need to hear the explanation or need to hear the words more that are um, affirming that things are okay, or um, that are like, so for example, even like um, being clear about what your intention is and what you are going to do and how you're going to follow up on something.
Yeah.
Some people might really need the specificity of that, whereas like especially nines, there's a lot of flow, right? A lot of and responsiveness, and that can feel too fluid for some people who really want it to be more firmed up to really
Yeah.
know. And like for example, how you've set up the whole program is you actually you actually speak to all three centers. I feel like when you are, you know, how you facilitate and how you've created the materials. And I think one of the gifts of being a body type is that there is this ability um, to kind of be receiving what's happening and respond to that. Whereas
Yeah.
that can stress other people out, right? Like it can be stressful if there has to be a pivot mid conversation, or Um, so um, it works on both sides, right? That we need to think about, and like, do you identify as a nine as well then? Yeah,
Yep. Yeah.
yeah. And I thought you had said that to me before. Yeah. So, but, and the thing is, right? Like, um, uh, for those who are needing to communicate with a nine, for example, like it's good not to like pressure us. It's
Hmm.
good not to like, you know, um, demand something in the like immediately right now. Give us a chance to think about it. We will step up and do it. We will, I don't know, I'm not saying this very well, but the thing is like there's like when there's the discomfort, then it can be harder to stay with it.
Yeah.
Whereas when there's some spaciousness and some other folks need to figure it out now, they need to talk about it now. They want to have all the pieces, but that can be hard for a nine.
Hmm.
If
Hmm.
it, I don't know, do you find that true too?
Yeah, yeah. That if there's like harmony or connection or security, then I feel like, you know, I can show up in a certain way. If they're, like you said, high pressure or high s- uh demand
Like
or something, that can
I
be
need
a
the answer
little,
now. Mm,
yeah, yeah, can kind of uh be like, okay, oh, okay. So, definitely.
mhm. Um,
Yeah, take a minute
but
because I'm kind of in this too, is like, where do we want to go from here?
yeah, because there's so many places to go. And one thing I did want to, because what you said was the different layers,
Yeah.
and that is the thing with the Enneagram. It is very multi-layered.
Do you want me to
And
show a picture, or do you have a picture that you
yeah,
like that you want to show on the screen?
um,
Like you can Google it and I'll let you
you know, I'm wondering if I can't, I wonder if I have, you'll be able to edit this out, right?
um
Uh, no, you don't have to edit it out. Well, okay, give me,
or do you want me
I
to pull something up if there's like a
pull,
certain book?
just, yeah, just pull something up because
Okay.
at the moment I'm not going to be able to pull it up very quickly, and then I will have a mess of things on my screen to share.
Sure. Well, I'll pull up, let's
Um,
see.
and I
Oh, this
wanted to
might
kind of
be.
find a physical thing, but I can't seem to locate that either at the moment.
That's okay. I don't know that this is like I just Googled what came up. I could.
So what? So while you're looking,
Yeah.
the thing that I wanted to sort of name is that, um, yeah, like it's multifaceted, and many people will like different people will focus on different aspects of the Enneagram, and
Yeah.
depending on whether it's being used in therapy or whether it's used as a communication and conflict resolution tool in business, whether it's a way of navigating one's spiritual journey, whether it's a way of um, facilitating better understanding and communication in the family. All of these different things might highlight different aspects and might also, you know, tune in to different facets of the Enneagram. And so, um, the like, it's kind of like, there's this idea about learning to ski and learning um, to snowboard, and similarly water
Oh.
ski or wakeboard, where like you can like it might be a little bit like it might be a little bit harder to get started on the wakeboard or the snowboard, but then once people get it, it happens really fast. And then with skiing, it's sort of like the actual beginning point is quite easy, but the mastery is more
Oh.
complex for both of for like. And I'm not even sure if this metaphor actually rings true or not. But my point, why I wanted to say is, the Enneagram is both the snowboard and the skiing, because
Ooh.
in a way you can get a real flavor for it quickly,
Yeah.
But then the mastery is a long and winding road, right? And
Yeah.
so you can get value from even like even just the three energy centers.
Mhm.
If that was all that sort of resonated for you, but you really started to tune into that and help your clients sort of become more, because it's a way of integrating into our
Yeah.
wholeness, right? Because it is all the different it kind of it taps into all the different um energetic points of the Enneagram types represented
Yeah.
by the types, but it's also physically in our body. And then, of course, the fourth element is spirit, right? So that's the
Yeah.
co creative part with spirit. And different people will be in different places along their journey of being able to even connect in with that. But if one can spend a moment noticing what's happening in the mind and notice what's happening in the heart and noticing what's happening with the body and then how to start connecting those. So sometimes what I do is I will have people, we won't do it now, but you can do it
Mhm.
for yourselves. You can just sort of connect like you can connect the three different points. You can connect the belly or the gut and the heart,
Mhm.
noticing what you're noticing. You can connect the heart and the head. You
Mhm.
can notice what it's like to connect the head and the belly, and you'll probably notice that something in that comes more easily. Oh, and you can start with them first individually as well or afterwards, but the point is that you'll notice that there's probably different qualities of how that is showing up for you personally, and even that as something to bring in to um, helping others tune in is already bringing in energetically, in a sense, like the morphic field of the Enneagram. And one of the things I was sort of saying, like like I'm just looking at my notes for a
Yeah,
second
of
here, right? So
course.
it's like this idea of like it is multi-layered, it is very robust. So it can be that high mastery of becoming an Olympic skier, for example, or a water skier, going through the course. Um, but it can also be simple in the getting started, but it's because it's so multifaceted, there's an infinite combination of ways that you can make sense of things, which then allows each individual's experience to be fully
Oh,
witnessed.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
and and that then makes it a dynamic tool rather than a like you could be contractive in how you use it, but really I feel the gift is in using it in a dynamic way and
Yeah.
helping people understand themselves in a dynamic way. And then it also, like,
Yeah.
so it is like, it's like a it can be a map of consciousness. It's a map of our inner motivations. 9 people can be exhibiting the same behavior, but depending on what their Enneagram type is, they will have a different motivation underlying it. So
Mhm.
the body types, the 8, the 9, and the 1, will be not, this isn't for every behavior, but their pattern is developed to help them navigate the energy of anger, right? So the
Mhm.
8 expresses it
Mhm.
very,
Oh, can I share? I
um,
think the image shows it,
yeah.
but I like if that helps. It's not the most beautiful image, but it is an image.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. So here we see so with this, oh yeah, perfect. Yeah. So here we see with the with the 8, the leader, the boss, the powerful person, um, like so energy moves through an 8 very like in a very um high energy way. So for an 8, if you have an 8 in your life or if you are an 8, it takes a lot of energy to slow down and hold back, right? And there's a real vulnerability that feels very, like when a 8 feels vulnerable or is can be very triggered by somebody else's vulnerability, because that is sort of the Achilles heel for the 8, is that small child within. And so the big boss, or that big energy, is the protector, and that can be used for good, protecting people, and it can be used um, in less good ways when somebody is not very healthy and they feel very reactive and they are angry. The 9 is looking to create peace and harmony in the world. So the anger, and also conflict. Like anger, they can be quite asleep to it in a way, or numb out. There's a lot of like very like there's a steadiness, but the idea the you know the ripple, or the consequence of there being a steadiness is that it's harder to experience um the the bigger range, let's say, of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And so that can be big love, that can be big joy. And that's something that, you kind of want to help a 9 start feeling these feelings. And that also means they have to start allowing the feeling of those trickier feelings, which it feels safer not to kind of bringing them into, like, it feels safer to kind of numb them out,
Yeah.
and that's where, um, and then the ones, the perfectionist reformers, they don't think it's like, for them, the underlying like program is it's not polite to be angry. So
Uh,
then so it's like, I know it's not polite I'm not angry. No, that's fine. But it comes out indirectly, right? So that's one of the things, that there's this paradox, right?
yeah.
People think that they are masking something, or they're trying to avoid something, but then the very thing they're trying to avoid is what is present. So
Yeah.
um for the 8, like, it's if the 8, I'm taking another angle on this. The 8 wants people to be direct with them, to be clear with them, not to surprise them. But people are terrified of the 8. If I have to tell them I messed up, or if I forgot to do something or whatever, I don't want them to get mad at me, right?
Yeah.
Especially if I'm a 9. And so then they can feel betrayed, because people are now kind of trying to hide things, because they don't like the walking on eggshells, because they don't want the wrath of the 8. So here, right, you can kind of see there's the paradox. They just want us to be straight with them, to meet their energy, but it feels vulnerable to some of the other types to be vulnerable. And then also because they have trouble, like, vulnerability can be triggering of their own vulnerability, then
Mhm.
it can become a double whammy, right? So now they can get really mean, sort of thing, right? As an
Sure.
example. But how I started this was where it takes a lot of energy. Even really healthy 8s will say it takes a lot of energy for me not to take charge, to let somebody else
Mm.
lead lead the team, or lead the group, or lead towards what we're doing next. So
Yeah.
that's sort of that's like the healthy expression of the energy, is the leadership,
Yeah.
and guiding people, and taking them to, like, being really being being that, like, that mama bear, or that courageous visionary who has the get up and go, like, who has the power to bring something into being.
Yeah.
And so, and then with the 9, the paradox is like that the 9 doesn't want conflict, but if the 9 is doing things to avoid conflict, that might include not telling somebody something, or leaving it too late, which then creates conflict. I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking about a
Mm-hmm.
situation in my own life that I can come up with, where it used to be hard for me to say if I'm going on a training or a workshop, because I didn't want any pushback at home. But then I would leave it to the last minute, and now I'm surprising the other person and saying, I'm not I'm not going to be here next week. I did tell them I'm not going to be here next week. They know that already, and I'm now much better at it. But that's one of the paradoxes. And similarly, like this idea started with the one because they're saying it's not polite to be angry. If that's the underlying belief, right? Not all ones will think that, but ones can have a bit of there's like a bit of black and white can be, well, let's say there's a decisiveness. This is correct. This is incorrect. This is
Ah,
right. This is wrong. This is black. This is white. It can be very clear. And
yeah.
so if the rule is, not all ones have the same rule, but if the rule is that it's not polite to be angry, then there will be this way, and it has to, like, that energy, everything's energy has to move, so it will either get stuck in the body, so then there can be um especially like people can have digestive issues or ulcers, or like when people aren't moving the energy, and for the body types it might be more likely to be
Mm.
a body centered kind of thing. But then it's again the paradox, like I it's not polite to be angry, but now the person is annoyed and resentful, and now people equally don't feel comfortable being around them, right? They want
Mhm.
to, like, they feel judged or whatever it is. So that's kind of an idea about that. And then the heart types. Can you just remind me how we first started with? Do you
Oh yeah,
remember?
you were talking about the gut is linked
Hmm.
to anger. And
Yes, right.
I can highlight here. It's funny because I'm used to seeing the nine being at the bottom, so this is throwing me off. But
Really?
I think so, but maybe who knows?
Oh no, no, I always see it this way. And I'll
Oh.
tell you why. So there's so because the nine is able to merge with all of the different
Oh. Uh-oh.
energies, the nine is like it's like the wholeness. But it's
Oh.
also like, no, like it can hold all the energies, but it still has its own work to do, right? Like that doesn't mean
Yes.
the nine doesn't have work to do. It just means that the nine is able to merge with all of the different types. And then nine, so and some people, and Gurdjieff, for example, has a way in which it's a whole different way of thinking about the Enneagram, but it's the cycling through of what
Ooh.
each of those points is adding. There's a number of people who will use the Enneagram also as a, like, the steps that you're taking in order to bring something to completion, right? That's also like
Interesting.
a strategy, like, like a strategy, or understanding the dynamic of the flow of energy. So it begins with the idea, like the Enneagram one can see the most optimal outcomes. They can see what the potential is.
Oh.
And then, the two can feel into what needs to happen in order to bring it in, like what others need, for example. And the
Yeah.
three would be figuring out an efficient way of being able to take action on something. And the four can bring in like the creative vision of that, or to see how, like, to really feel it more deeply, to embody, like, to kind of access it in a deeper way. And then the observer, the five, is able to really map out the complexity of the ideas of the, like, both the four brings in an imagination, and that's more experiential in a way, and
Um,
the five brings in an imagination that is the energy of the five. I mean, all people can access these things, but the energy of the five is bringing in, like, really going deep in the understanding of the ideas, or of the knowledge, or of the facts, or whatever it is.
oh.
So all of these things are served, like, moving something towards a completion. Now the six can foresee what things can go wrong. So what are the different pathways if if these ideas so far don't work out? Like, if we're going to hit some obstacles, the six is the lens of the six, we'll be able to foresee what those might be and what the way of shifting or what to do about it, kind of to
Yeah.
keep it moving. And then the seven doesn't want to get boxed in, right? But the seven can see, like, is looking to see, like, there's a joyful, adventurous energy and an excitement, an enthusiasm
Yeah.
about something. So then, like, after we figured out what's getting in the way, well, then we can be enthusiastic about the project, as an example, right? And
Yeah.
then the eight has the energy to kind of really put energy into it to bring it into form. And then the nine can hold all of it in
Mm.
in sort of like that like in that like balance, like peace and harmony and balance. And so that's kind of a way, a totally other way of thinking about it. But in that, I also sort of highlighted what are some of the qualities of the different types. And so
Yeah.
I will just sort of, because um I'll just name, like, to complete this idea, like the heart types
Hmm.
are, for them, it's about image. That's the thing that they're working with, is the image. And how that translates, because you might think, what's wrong with image? But the issue around image is that there's this idea that one has to be a certain way. So the two is giving to get, because if they're not giving, then they think they're not worthy of love, right? But but they can have it can be very hard to be receiving. And for the three, the efficient person, the motivator, the performer, the idea is to, like, one has to do to be of value. One has to
Hmm.
be achieving.
Yeah.
And for the romantic, the artist, the unique, original person, the image is that I have to be unique. To be ordinary is death, basically.
Mhm.
And so that's the trickster. The image is now, and I didn't even, like, I'm just going to finish this thought and not open another one. But the thing about this is that what happens when one feels like they're failing at the image is that they're feeling shame. So, like, the gut types are working with anger. Actually, the image types, the heart types, are navigating, well, trying to avoid shame ultimately.
Yeah.
And then with the head types, it's how to deal with fear, how to avoid fear. So the observer, the thinker, the wise person in the five is trying to learn everything they possibly can so they know how to deal with whatever situation comes up. And now they have it figured out for whenever that situation comes up. And for the questioner, the loyalist, the loyal skeptic, their approach is to foresee what can go wrong. So there are pathways of how to, like, what needs to happen to avoid that, but then also what are alternate pathways. And then for the seven, the epicure, the generalist, the adventurer, the joyful person, for them, it's about not wanting, like, the fear of being restricted, boxed in, being limited. And so then there's this always moving on. Like, we can all be shiny object chasers, but the seven will be most oriented towards that. And for me, as a two, like, because I said my try, like that, the op like the when, like, I'm the optimistic triad, then I have that quite nicely with the, because it's the two
Ah.
nines, like 279 or 927, kind of are the most, I have most access to those qualities. Then I'm really good with chasing shiny objects too. But, like, but it kind of, but it sort of shows you the different ways in which um, it kind of brings in the human story of how these types are living in the world. And
Yeah.
you might actually notice them in your around your dinner table, or in the carpool, or um, in the therapy room, as an example.
Oh, definitely. Oh my gosh. I feel like there's like so many pieces to this. I think we'll have to keep the conversation going. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because there's just so much. I I'm thinking of well, first I want to be like respectful of your time because we've hit our hour mark. I just want to say though that it's such a gift to hear like the different pieces and to hear it from you. I feel like you have a I don't it's just very refreshing. I don't know why. I really enjoy hearing it from you. And for me to become curious about how this could be in the therapy room. I think I tend to use it more in my own
Mm-hmm.
my own self-knowledge and my own journey. And maybe we'll talk about that a little bit next time. But but yeah, I wonder how much this could be like clarifying and encouraging, for our clients too, to feel really
Mm-hmm.
seen and to feel like affirmed, Like I think my similar to what you were describing with your experience as a nine, I think it really helped me appreciate the things that are kind of my hidden superpowers and then
Mm-hmm.
also not feel inadequate or guilty about the things that are just like, other people's strengths. And that's fine. That doesn't have to be my,
Yeah.
exact strength. And um, so yeah, I love I love that even as just like a starting point, as like a organizing way of seeing the world, of like touching in
Mm-hmm.
with clients when we're first meeting them and we may or may not know much of their story. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is a helpful place to start.
Yeah, nice. And the thing is, we didn't get to the stuck unstuck, although I have
Right.
that here. And
We'll have to be a
um,
to be continued.
we'll do it to be continued. We'll do it to be continued. And also like this idea of like what you were saying, in terms of connecting people with their like connecting with and recognizing the gifts that
Hmm.
each type brings, because so much of the focus of the world in general is on the things that are suboptimal and need some kind of fixing, right? And
Right.
instead, it's about really relaxing into receiving, recognizing, witnessing the gifts that each person individually brings to
Yes.
life, but also then adding the lens of the Enneagram, because especially in different society, different cultural communities, different styles might be the preferential way that one is supposed to show up in the culture of the workplace or something else. And so then there's a false belief that something is better than something else. But really, we need everybody, and we need everybody like humming, humming in the frequencies of the gifts of the light of the love of who they are,
Yeah.
right? Rather than in the deficiencies and the points where we still get to grow and change and evolve and develop, right? Because every person already comes with the gift of who they are. And I think just witnessing that, and maybe even that, along with the head, the heart, and the belly, just remembering that, which as therapists you do, like you're naturally dialed into that you're witnessing the gifts of who people are. And the Enneagram is a way to kind of like, when you look at it through the lens of the gifts, then um, that is, I think, a very powerful place to sort of help people, if they're stuck in a story that doesn't um, like allow them to experience that, or that hasn't been mirrored back to them or witnessed much. It's a way of actually getting quite practical about the things that somebody can already bring into the world just by being the way they're wired, right? So, yeah.
Yes. Oh,
Mhm.
I love that. Yeah, so often we want to be strengths focused. And I love that idea of this being a practical way to like connect with clients and name it back. And I'm also just thinking for people who do couples work too. I had a couples therapist
Yes,
who had us both, look at the Enneagram, take the assessment tool or whatever, and then talk about, oh, okay, what are some strengths that we have as a couple, and what are some things that are probably difficult or like growth edges for us as a couple. And that was really, it opened up a really interesting conversation.
it is really powerful. I found that too. And not just couples, right? Like any dyad or even system, right, of people.
Ooh,
Um,
like your parent-child or
your
coworker or
parent
boss.
child, your exact all those things, because
Ooh,
it now gives a different lens in being able, like, especially like, so if it's difficult for you, then having that lens can help you learn not to take certain things personally, right?
yeah, yeah.
And similarly, becoming more skilled at communicating what your needs are, or what your intention is, or whatever that may be. Because when we understand that we are each different, then, and for some types, we can understand that people are different. Other people really live in a more siloed way. Some of the types are more prone to forgetting that the world is seen in different ways. Like if there are
Mhm,
people who can
mhm.
feel quite like this is like it's a surprise to discover when somebody sees it very differently. And
Mhm.
even just that opens up breathing room, wiggle room, where there's tension,
Yeah.
So, mhm.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
yes, I know. So, and I'm thinking more about this other thing, like just even like with the gifts, like the stuck unstuck is kind of like about the pattern, the trance of the pattern, which is the way in which we're on automatic pilot. And then the unstuck is like the way we move through that thing that we're like. So for example, the 9 is avoiding conflict, but the way through to getting unstuck is actually to move through towards the thing that feels most vulnerable to us, right? And so
Oh, yeah.
that would be part of that would be part of working with the gifts and helping them become more accessible, but also getting unstuck. So that's something we can talk about another time.
Oh my gosh. But even that is so powerful just to say, okay, I understand for the different types and then even for the different like gut, head, heart, like
Mm-hmm.
there tends to be the theme that
Yeah.
moving toward that is what helps
Yes.
soften and unlock new
Yeah,
possibilities.
exactly. So yeah, um so for the help of, like, for the heart types, it's actually um being like trusting that they are, like, in whatever version, that they are actually enough as who they are, and they are lovable, whether they're helping other people, whether they're really efficient in doing so much, and whether they're super like unique 100% of the time, right?
Yeah.
And then for the thinkers, it's like about yeah, like relaxing around the, like, relaxing with the like the like because for them it's actually more about trust, in a sense, right? Like the fear is what gets the overactivity. Like I mean, there's goodness that comes from that, but the thing is, it's disruptive.
Yeah.
It feels challenging. So, and then for the body types to kind of, for each type to sort of allow the feelings that are the feelings, but um, for each one learning how to be present with it without being reactive or avoidant or numbing out, kind of thing, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ooh, so, so good, so good. Ah, Ilsa, is there two things If there's a final thought you want to leave with us, or if that feels complete, and then where can people like connect with you, find you, like if they want to keep the conversation going?
Yes. Um, um, so I think my final thought would be wherever you are on this journey of what is the Enneagram and why does it matter to me kind of thing. I just invite you to like not feel like you have like don't worry like just start in one place. Um, and and um, and if one source feels like you're not connecting, look for another source because remembering that nine types are going to be sharing these perspectives. And so the way I've talked about it today is, it's been quite nine because I've been weaving things in and out. I didn't follow a sequential um, uh, way of approaching it, and that may drive you crazy. So then maybe don't. Then I may not be your person, and that no problem. But you might have a nine in your therapy room. So then at least it gives you some insight into a more kind of like a multi-layered way of thinking and spontaneous and showing up in the moment. So that might be two things that I've said. One is um, keep exploring it, but if the points of connection don't resonate, don't stop there. Keep like find the connection that actually opens a door for you because I think you won't regret that door being opened. And secondly, if you have a nine in your life or in your therapy room or as a colleague or whatever, there can be tricky things about nines, but we bring a lot of gifts. So pay attention to the gifts of the nine, and ask for their opinion about things because they will not they're not they w- will let other people do the talking unless you give them the mic and then they won't be quiet like is happening right now. um, but so the way to connect with me would be so as a nine, I haven't been great about setting up my, like registering an email kind of thing, which I am actually planning to do, even maybe next week. But you can send me an email at, I'm, I'm going to give you one that's the simplest one. It's my
Oh,
first name, Ilze,
I'll
I
put it in the
L Z
chat.
E. Oh, yeah, great. ILZE dot Matiss, Matiss, and then at me.com. And then my website is ilzematiss.com.
Yeah.
And if this idea interests you, and if you like the way in which I talk about the Enneagram, it is actually my intention to begin, like I've had conversations in the past, like sort of like mini intensives around that small groups. If you have a small group, we can arrange something where we have conversations, or I am going to be recording some things that will become available. And there's something I sort of I've developed a way of working with it that I call the Enneagram Playbook. That is something that might be of interest. So if I vibe for you and you are interested in continuing the conversation, you can reach out and we can figure out what that might look like.
Yay.
Oh, and I
Thank
have this
you.
book. I have this
Yeah.
book. It's called, I have this book. It's called You Are the Story, a soulful guide to healing your life. I know, healing your past and living from the truth of who you are. So I'm developing a whole series of mini books that are like having conversations with me. So if something like that interests you, let me know and I'll kind of, and eventually it's all going to be nicely linked up. This is where I need one of the other types to kind of get me sorted out because these are the things that are um, where I'm getting in my own way, and the expression is falling asleep to one's own purpose. So I love sharing. and help, like, helping, sharing, facilitating, guiding, and yet I can be beautifully invisible and hard to find. So I'm improving. I'm going to be improving with that,
I love
but
that.
it's a nine thing.
Right. I know we've like resonated so much working together, like that the courage it
Yeah.
takes to become visible and to like use your voice.
Hmm.
And I know that's been a
Hmm.
huge part of my journey too. So I just want to acknowledge that even just coming, live and talking about things, like that's also a step of courage. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Amazing.
Wonderful to be here. And I mean, you've created such a beautiful community of us people. So I'm just sending out lots of love to all of our
Yes.
people.
Yes.
Hmm.
And if anyone is watching the replay, it doesn't matter if it's tonight or, years from now, you can put a comment if you have a question or if this, like stirred something up in you.
Yeah.
Because I do think our words go out and they have ripples beyond what we
Hmm.
know. So thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And until next time, we'll
Until
connect
next
soon.
time.
All
Okay.
right. See
Bye-bye. Take
you.
care.
Bye.